Hello, welcome to Screen Talk with yours truly, Nomfanelo. So, of this video, I want to talk about the state of the James Bond franchise. Now, I might be a little late to talking about this, but as they say, it's better late than never. So, if you're aware or if you're not aware, it was announced on February 20th, so about over a week from as of the time of this recording. It was announced that Amazon gained full creative control of the James Bond franchise from Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, who had creative control of the Bond franchise up to this point. So honestly, when I saw this, I was shocked. This just came out of nowhere because it seemed like with the Broccoli family, they wanted to keep this as a family business. And there have been reportings where there was tension amongst them and Amazon in terms of the direction of the franchise and all that stuff. But yeah, with this, honestly, it just came out of left field. So I want to first do like a brief rundown on MGM in relation to James Bond to kind of get an understanding like how we got to this point. So in 1961, Albert Broccoli and Harry Saltzman they had purchased the film rights to the James Bond books that were written by Ian Fleming. They founded Eon Productions, which essentially produces the Bond movies, essentially. And with that they got financial backing by United Artists. I'll get back to them at some point. And during this year, they made Doctor No, which was with Sean Connery. And then the following year, in 1962, Broccoli and Saltzman they created Dane Jack, which is a holding company essentially that's in charge of the copyrights and trademarks, essentially related to everything on James Bond and all that stuff. And that is currently owned by the Broccoli family. And then fast forward to 1981, MGM, they purchased United Artists. So now I guess the Broccoli family is dealing with MGM instead of United Artists. And then I think that for a couple years, MGM they've sold parts of it to other people and then regained some of it and all that stuff. And then fast forward to 2010, MGM they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy because that studio has been essentially going through tough times and all that stuff. And then fast forward 2021, Amazon purchased MGM for 8.5 billion. On Wikipedia it says 8.45, but most reports say 8.5 billion, so let's just go with that number. So that happened in May of 2021. And then by March of 2022, that deal with Amazon closed. So now Amazon owns MGM. And then in October 2023, MGM is rebranded as Amazon MGM Studios. And honestly, when I first saw that, I was kind of like puzzled because I figured they would do the similar route that Disney did with 20th Century Studios, by essentially still keeping the name. Well, they removed the Fox name, obviously, but essentially still keeping it as 20th Century Studios, but keep it as like a subsidiary under Disney. I figured, Amazon would have done the same thing, but obviously that didn't happen here. But, it is what it is with that one. So essentially now, MGM is now known as Amazon MGM Studios. And then, of course, recently, now Amazon has full creative control of the Bond series. So that's just a brief rundown on MGM Amazon timeline. So you wonder though, could this deal have been preventable? Well, you could argue that No, because with Jeff Bezos and Amazon, they were willing to essentially do whatever it takes to get that deal with the Broccoli family by gaining control of the franchise. And well, that eventually did happen. But then I did wonder too, as this was unfolding, could this have been preventable? Maybe. Because since this is a family business, you figured that they would have passed it down to one of their offspring if one or both of them wanted to retire, I suppose, or focus on other things. Greg Wilson, who is Michael G. Wilson's son, he is involved with the franchise as an associate producer. He executive produced the recent Bond show Road to a Million, which is not that bad of a show. I know many people didn't like it, but I enjoyed it. It's kind of like its version of The Amazing Race, but with Bond stuff, essentially. And so yeah, you figured that, I don't know, if, they didn't want to run the Bond franchise anymore, you could have passed it on to probably Greg or any of family members that were still involved, but it seemed like that did not happen. And it makes you wonder, that is it because the children wanted to do other things, or is it because Barbara Broccoli wanted to have the franchise to herself? I don't know. So as I was like trying to do research on this, I stumbled upon this article on Variety, which might give some full context in relation to Barbara Broccoli and the Bond franchise. So it was written by uh, Tatiana Siegel. Says James Bond's road to Amazon, Barbara Broccoli's tight control, snubbing Christopher Nolan, and more. All right, let's see what happens here. In late January 2024, Barbara Broccoli attended performance of her stage musical Buena Vista Social Club at the Atlantic Theater in New York. Longtime Bond producer and gatekeeper was joined by three top Amazon MGM Studios execs: Jennifer Salke, Courtney Valenti, and Julie Rappaport, for a night that also included dinner and shop talk. For months, Selke's boss, Mike Hopkins, had spearheaded discussions with Broccoli about Bond's future at Amazon. The purpose of the night's tete-a-tete was for Selke to make Broccoli comfortable with the studio's loose plans for the first Bond movie since Amazon acquired MGM in 2022 for $8.5 billion. Sources say Broccoli left the meeting uninspired by Salke, a longtime TV exec, and returned to her home in London. Shortly after, talks began for the siblings to relinquish creative control of what is viewed as the last untapped mega brand, one comparable to Lucasfilm, Marvel, and DC. Amazon declined comment. Eon did not respond to a request for comment. Following a year of fraught negotiations, Amazon will soon have full grip of the franchise that has spawned 25 films, yada, yada, yada. The deal needs regulatory approval in the US and UK, which is expected sometime this year. Amazon exec chairman Jeff Bezos, who signed off on the complex transaction that sees Broccoli and her half brother Michael Wilson retaining financial stake in the property, is keenly interested in how the tech giant can bring Bond into the digital age. If you own a Ferrari but don't control where or if it goes, it's frustrating, says former Amazon Studios chief Roy Price. The Broccoli's have provided the best example in Hollywood's history of managing a character, but in today's complex landscape, it makes sense for Amazon to get in the driver's seat and control their destiny. For years, Broccoli and Wilson resisted the siren call to fully exploit the property that is based on Ian Fleming's spy novels across multiple platforms. Sometimes didn't see eye to eye with each other, according to insiders. But their move to limit the exposure of the man with a license to kill may have proved prudent considering that the ubiquity of Uber brands like Disney's Marvel and Lucasfilm sparked audience fatigue and prompted a pullback on output. But some say Broccoli was too cautious and exerted outsized control to the detriment of Bond. Sources say Christopher Nolan, expressed interest in directing a Bond movie following the release of Tenet, but Broccoli made clear that no direct will a final cut while Bond was under her purview. Nolan, a final cut director, wound up making Oppenheimer as his follow up to Tenet, and the rest is history on that one. Decades later, Spielberg wanted to make a Bond movie following Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but was blocked by Broccoli's father because he was too inexperienced. Interesting. Still, there's a reason the Broccoli's held the reins tightly. Bond is and will continue to be a tricky needle to thread. He was created at the height of the Cold War, long before gender equality was a mantra. Yet modernizing the martini-loving Lothario too much poses its own issues. There's something so special and unique about Bond, and you can't just strip him of the things that make him so debonair and cram five projects into production right now and not totally destroy everything about the property, says Peter Newman, head of MBA/MFA graduate dual degree program at NYU's Tisch School of the Arts. And if you make Bond more politically correct, you're going to have a lot of pushback. Says industry observers have more confidence in Amazon's ability to bring forth a high quality Bond film than TV series. And then this shows blah, 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 blah. But yeah, sources say that Amazon's next steps on Bond is still top priority. Studio will look first to attach a producer in the vein of David Heyman, who shepherded Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts films with a cohesive vision. As for Broccoli, she's still creatively tied to Amazon and has a strong working relationship with Valenti and Rappaport. The studio is in active development on a Chitty Chitty Bang Bang remake that Broccoli is producing. Although Amazon can't move forward with hiring anyone on Bond until the Broccoli Wilson deal is closed, that hasn't stopped every agency in town from pitching its best writers, directors, and leading men. Price thinks Amazon should look internally when casting one of 007's nemesis. That's funny. Yeah, it's an interesting article, so I urge you guys to check that out. But yeah, it just seems like with the Broccoli family, they always wanted to do things a certain way. There's obviously pros and cons to that one. Like, it would be interesting to see if how Spielberg would have approached Bond. Same with Nolan as well. I've seen some people discuss maybe Amazon will try to bring Nolan back. Honestly, I doubt it at this point. It seemed like he's busy doing other stuff. He's working on the Odyssey, and I'm sure he wants to focus on more original stuff. So, but hey, never say never. But at this point, I don't see that happening. But yeah, now like you just wonder what's gonna happen now with the franchise. So it seems like they want to essentially do what they can with this franchise, either do spin-offs or films, try to use the IP as much as possible. So I'll share another article here. This is from the Hollywood Reporter that I just saw here. Says here, this is James Bond and the Mad Dash for franchise IP. The day after she gave up control of the Bond franchise at Amazon, Barbara Broccoli spent the evening with a Bond girl who helped MI6 agent defeat a billionaire technology and media mogul seeking global domination. On February 21st, Broccoli attended a Film Academy screening of The Accidental Getaway Driver, the Sing J. Lee film in which she serves as an executive producer. Clad in a maroon velvet pantsuit and sneakers, Broccoli was joined by Michelle Yeoh, who was in Tomorrow Never Dies. So when Tomorrow Never Dies was released, Amazon was an online bookstore competitor to Barnes and Noble. So of course Jeff Bezos had grander ambitions. Bezos now owns, Amazon Prime Video, which is one of the largest tech companies. Also owns the Washington Post and all that stuff, and then now controls the Bond franchise. When Hollywood Reporter asked Broccoli at the screening about the decision to give up control of the franchise, she politely declined to talk about the deal and preferred to focus on the film she was there to support. I'm happy you're here to see the movie, she said. The blockbuster deal that took Hollywood by storm will see Amazon secure control of the franchise. Yeah, it goes into detail. I thought I saw something here. Um, Right here. Someone says cementing bond could pay for this transaction multiple times over in success. Lightshed analyst Rick Greenfield says if they make Bond the next Marvel, who knows? Bond has always been so tightly controlled. Sporadic movies, there's never been a TV series, there hasn't been a theme park. How could you create the world of Bond? Hollywood is still an IP driven era, and Bezos' Bond deal is perhaps the best example of the steep price that companies will pay to get what they want, or at least what they think consumers want. As a top entertainment exec tells THR franchise, quality IP is so scarce that companies need to fully exploit what they control, even at the risk of overexposure, and they need to do their best to develop new IP despite the high cost, years of development, and inherent risk. Look at WB, who's trying to reboot DC. Their WB is pouring cash into Superman, which is supposed to come out in July, which is supposed to be the start of this new iteration of DC. The goal for the company is to make two live action films and one animated movie per year, while also producing two live action and two animated series for Max per year. Yada, 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 yada. And then it goes on, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, it's all about IP. So, you could check out this article here. So, I guess like the best example to try to compare what Amazon will probably do, look at Legally Blonde, for example, because that's another title that's that was MGM now under Amazon. So they've announced that they're working on a third film. I think it's that's still in the writing phase with Mindy Kaling, I believe, working on the script of that with Dan Gore. And then recently they announced that there's going to be a prequel series focusing on Al Woods. Apparently that's supposed to come out sometime this year. So yeah, like I'm gonna assume that they're probably going to try to do what they can with this franchise, in addition to just the films themselves. So probably we'll see like a prequel series on Bond or spin-offs, focusing maybe on the villains, I suppose, or the side characters. But I don't know, like anything can happen. So because maybe, depending on who they get in charge to run the creative aspect of the franchise, it could probably turn out for the best, or it could turn out for the worst. But I mean, we shall see what happens here. So that's pretty much what I have to say in terms of the future of the franchise. So I'm kind of optimistic myself, but at the same time, I'm a bit worried as a long time Bond fan. But I want to know, what do you guys think about this whole deal? Let me know in the comment section. Also, too, if you want to support me, you can visit buymeacoffee.com/Nomfanelo, where you could donate either one time or monthly. But also, too, you could check out exclusive posts that I have there, and also you can follow me there. So that'll be greatly appreciated. So also, too, If you want to follow me on social media, my links are in the description. And I want to say thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to catch you on the next one.